Hello, I'm Dale Yurton, and welcome to our study on unity. Unity. The second lesson that I'm sharing with you, I'm going to call it the causes of division. The causes of division. And what we're going to do, we're going to look in particular at things that divide us. I think an excellent scripture for this subject is found in the book of Proverbs, the 6th chapter, verses 16 through 19. The wise man says, "These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. Number 1, a proud look. Then a lying tongue. Then hands that shed innocent blood. The next thing is a heart that devises wicked plans, and then feet that are swift in running to evil, and then a false witness who speaks lies. And finally, the 7th thing that he mentions is, and one who sows discord among brethren." Wow. I know there are a lot of people that don't take that list seriously, but we need to take it seriously, because when God says that he hates something, then you and I had better be avoiding it with a passion. You want to stay away from that, because that is going to get you into serious problems. God hates it. Those that cause division among brethren. Brethren, of course, are those that are united together in covenant love. They are part of the family. And if you cause division with that, God takes it very seriously. See, the truth of it is, when we are causing division, we're actually doing the devil's work. The devil's always trying to divide us. If he can divide us, he can weaken us. If he can weaken us, then he can conquer us. That's always his strategy against us. But when you and I begin causing division, we're doing the devil's work. No wonder God hates it. No wonder God says, you don't do that. That's going to get you into serious trouble. Now, for those of us that are in leadership, this is one of the things that we must be on high alert. Is one of the greatest challenges that we have to leadership is division. Division. As I mentioned, how the devil is always trying to divide us. That's always one of his strategies. And so, knowing that, as good leaders, we must always be looking for things that pull us together, that bring us together, that unite us, that strengthen us, rather than things that divide us and weaken us. Division. Every leader must be on guard, lest there are those that sow seeds of division in whatever organization or group that he may be leading. Division always starts at the top and reaches down to the lowest members. It always happens that way. I've met children that their parents blamed them why they had gotten a divorce. That's not true. It's not true. It takes the same 2 people to get a divorce that it did to get married. Don't blame that on the children. Now, the same is true in churches. It's true in every organization. Division begins at the top. That's where it comes from. The members can never divide the church. It's those that are in leadership. And so there are 5 different things that I want to focus on in this particular lesson. There's other things, of course, but I think these are highly significant things that stand out as the main reasons why we find ourselves divided, why we find ourselves fighting with each other, going different directions. This is the first one, a sectarian spirit. Now, this is particularly true when you're dealing with religious organizations or you're dealing with churches and Christians. A sectarian spirit, those that fight with brothers. See, sectarian spirits always pretend to be spiritual. That's always one of the signs that somebody has a sectarian spirit. They think they're more spiritual than you are. It comes out of pride. That's where it comes from. It's based in pride that we begin believing the lie that we are better than other people. That's not true, my friend. You're not better than anybody else. No, it is only by the grace of God that we are who we are. It's been God's favor and His goodness in our lives. We have nothing to boast of ourselves. The Apostle Paul said it so plainly when he said, I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwells no good thing. I've had to come to that realization, to that conclusion, that the only good thing about me is Jesus Christ. It's not me. It's only Christ and His grace upon my life. That's the only thing that makes me different than anybody else. So the sectarian spirit, these people, they tend to look for things that will divide us. For instance, doctrine. Doctrine's a big word to them. They love to talk about doctrine. Actually, doctrine becomes a god to these people. They begin to worship doctrine. They exalt doctrine like an idol that they bow before, and doctrine becomes more important than people. They will crucify you with the Bible. Oh, God, help us not to fall into a sectarian spirit. The truth of it is, the people with sectarian spirits want to control other people. Now listen to me carefully, because if you deal with that problem of wanting to control others, then you need to do a good investigation of yourself, whether you have a sectarian spirit. God doesn't do that. No, God doesn't try to control us. God gives us liberty. Liberty, the power of choice. God does that for us. So when you find people that are trying to control others, that is a sectarian spirit. These kind of people, they specialize in building fences, things that divide us, things that separate us. And they're always talking about us and them. They're always trying to build a fence instead of building bridges. Let me tell you, friend, I'm not interested in being a fence builder. I want to become a bridge builder. I want to find ways that I can connect with other good people, with godly people. My life will be benefited just by being in the right relationship with them. So God help us to become bridge builders instead of fence builders. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about that causes division is novice leadership. Novice leadership. Taking and putting someone that's immature into a leadership position is going to create problems simply because they don't have the maturity to be able to handle the authority that comes with that position. So what we need to do, particularly when we're dealing with young people or in the church with young Christians, when we're dealing with young people, give them jobs to do rather than giving them positions or titles. That's almost always a mistake, to give a young person a position or a title over others, because here's the principle. Promotion without maturity produces pride. And so in their pride, they mishandle the authority. They begin abusing the authority because of their pride. They don't know how to properly handle it. Now, I've made this mistake before, and I believe other leaders have made this mistake, that we don't realize that the talent of youth is usually more developed than their character. Now that's just true of young people all around the world. So don't be looking for how developed they are in their talent. They may have great charisma, but leadership is going to be judged by character. And so what we need to do when we're choosing people for leadership positions, we need to look around for godly character and learn to delegate authority based on character, not on talent. It's a mistake. You can teach people how to play the drums or how to play the guitar or the keyboard. You can teach them according to their musical abilities. You can teach them those skills. But character is something that has to be developed. It comes out of a godly relationship, a relationship with God where we mature and we begin to respect the positions of authority. And so novice leadership ends up causing division so many times, causing so many hurts and problems, not because they're intentionally trying to do it. They're just simply not mature enough to handle that position. And when you put them in that place, you're setting them up for a fall, you're setting them up for failure, and they're going to hurt other people. And so, novice leadership, it's one of the problems that causes division. Let me talk about a third one. A third one, spiritual pride. Of course, it's easy to see that all of these are connected together. They all go back to this root of pride. See, pride is a root of sin. You have to understand that that's where sin began, in heaven, at the throne of God. And it was an archangel. That was the first cause of division, according to our Bibles. In our Bible, that is the first story that is told. And it comes back to pride, where you have Lucifer saying, I will, I will, I will. He's just always talking about himself, trying to exalt himself. Pride. It has been the downfall of so many people. Don't you ever forget it, my friend. Humility is considered to be the greatest of all virtues. The greatest. It is considered the most difficult to attain within our lives because the very moment that we think we have it, we just lost it. Oh yes, humility. Humility is not thinking better of yourself or less of yourself. Humility is simply not thinking of yourself. It's preferring others before yourself. Just as Jesus said, he said, I did not come to be served. I came to serve and to give my life a ransom for many. Though he was Lord, though he was King, yet he humbled himself to serve us. What a godly example for you and I. The book of Proverbs, you see 2 or 3 strong warnings about this, where he says that pride goes before a fall, a haughty spirit before destruction. How many times we have seen that people seem to be doing very well until they're given some authority, until they're placed in a position of leadership, and suddenly it goes to their head. And they begin making terrible mistakes because they're lifted up in pride. And pride goes before the fall. Humility does the opposite. Humility promotes others instead of ourselves. Rather than promoting ourselves, we're looking for ways that we can promote others, that we can bless others, we can benefit others. That's the way that Jesus did. That's the way he lived. What an example for us. So God help us to avoid spiritual pride where we exalt ourselves. We begin to think of ourselves above what we ought to think. That is a mistake. It will always bring about division. It causes pain and hurt to all of those that are around us. And so these are things that cause division. And every leader has got to learn to deal with these things, not allow them to divide the group that he is leading. There's a fourth thing I want to talk about. A fourth thing, and this is one that we must be very, very careful as leaders of competitive spirits. Competitive spirits. Now, I understand that ambition is a good thing that if it is within bounds. And the boundaries are, we're never competing with our brothers. We're only competing with ourselves to be our very best, to do our best. That's a good thing. But when we begin competing with others, we soon discover competition never creates a spirit of unity. No, if we're not careful, competition ends up causing division, causing pain, causing others to be pushed away from us, people that we need in our lives, people that it becomes a mutual blessing, a blessing to us, and we become a blessing to them. But because we've allowed ourselves to get into competition with our brothers, it's a mistake. Don't do that. I believe it is foolish for us to compare ourselves with other people. Why? Because none of us are exactly alike. We're all uniquely different. It's like comparing apples with oranges or oranges with bananas. They're all good, but they are all uniquely different. And the same is true with our lives. When we begin to compare ourselves with others, Paul warned us about that. In the book of 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter and verse 12, he says, "But they, measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise." If we're not wise, then we're being foolish. You don't want to be foolish. You don't want to waste your life. No, not at all. So he said, get out of this business of comparing yourself with other people. How good they can do this, how good you can do it. Stop doing that. It's a mistake. It's a foolish mistake. And yet, it's been a problem that has been with us from the beginning. Stop comparing yourself with your brothers. Now, as I said, ambition, if it is used within our own life to be our very best, that can be a good thing. We should work to develop our own potential, but never get in competition with somebody else. Because the moment that you do, somebody's going to have to lose in this game. It's a lose-win situation, and those are not good because there's always a loser. You need to set life up to become win-win situations. They win and you win. Everybody wins. And when we're doing that, then we find the blessings of unity. But when division comes, division always sets us up where somebody is losing. And that's what competitive spirits do. Competitive spirits put us in a competition with our brothers. Don't do that. Always attempt to be your best for God. You're living your life in view of God. You're living your life to be your very best, to develop the potential, to fulfill your destiny. That's a good thing. But when you begin comparing yourself with others, then you're setting up a lose-win situation where somebody is going to be hurt. And so I warn you, don't compete with your brother. Just don't do that. Because when you do, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to be offended. And the devil thrives on using that to divide us so that he can destroy our lives and our potential. These are things that cause division within our lives. Now, let me give you the fifth one. The fifth one that I see that is commonly used to divide us is the abuse of authority. The abuse of authority. How many times we have rejected authority within our life because somebody abused their authority. Either their pride, their immaturity, their competitiveness, whatever it was, it caused them to abuse the authority that they had. And because of that, we reject authority in our life. We must understand all authority comes from God. That's right. Even those that are in authority, that are acting badly, that are abusing their authority, God gave them that opportunity. But here's what you must understand. God will hold them accountable. They will be held accountable for the way they have used the authority. For instance, Jesus, when he was dealing with the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, and he says to Pontius Pilate, "You would have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above." Boy, those are true words, powerful words. You wouldn't have this position. You would not be the Roman governor if God hadn't given you this opportunity. That means you're going to be held accountable to a higher authority. All authority proceeds from God. And if you abuse your authority, you will be held accountable for the way that you have abused your authority. See, what you have to understand is authority, because it comes from God, authority actually reveals what's in our heart, what's inside of us. Many times, a person may seem, be a very nice person, a very gracious individual, until you give them a little of authority. And suddenly they begin lording it over everybody else. They become very bossy and trying to tell everybody else what to do. What's happened? Authority has revealed what was in their heart all the time. Maybe they didn't even know what was in their heart. But when they were put into that position of authority, their abuse of the authority revealed the weakness that is within. As someone has well said, power tends to corrupt us. Now, the problem really is not the power. The problem is within us. What the position does by putting us in that authority, we're given a power, and now it's revealed there was corruption in our hearts. So power tends to corrupt us, and as the saying goes on, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what we discover. Because as people, we are not perfect. Understand, you're going to give an account to God. I will give an account to God. What are we going to give account for? For the way that we have used the authority that God has given to us. What have we done with our lives, with the talents, with the gifts that He has given to us? That position, that authority, that power has revealed what was in our hearts. We must understand, because all authority comes from God, those that are in authority must be under authority. That's why Jesus was able to handle the authority that God gave to him. When he said, "All power, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me," it revealed there was no sin in him. But because we are not perfect, we must be on guard, and we must be cautious that we do not abuse the authority that is given to us. If we're causing division, if we're bringing discord among brethren, we're in danger. We're in danger of the judgment of God, that God will hold us accountable for what we are doing with the authority that He has given to us. And what I've discovered is, anytime that you have authority that's not under authority, authority that is unaccountable, it's always destructive. Always. Because, as I said, we're not perfect. Jesus was perfect because Jesus is God in the flesh. He's the only one that got it right 100% of the time. But for you and I, we must make sure that we keep ourselves in a position of accountability. I want there to be people in my life that can ask me any question they want to ask me, and I will answer them as honestly as I can. Why? Because it's a dangerous thing to be unaccountable. When we are unaccountable, we're on the edge of destruction. We're on the edge of getting ourselves into serious problems. And so this is what the abuse of authority does. The abuse of authority produces division. Why? Because it gives a lot of people an excuse to become a rebel. You never have that right. The abuse of authority doesn't give us the right to become rebels. No matter what they have done to you, you must respond in the correct way. You must respond like Jesus would respond. You must keep the right attitude, the right spirit, and do what you need to be doing. If we fail in this area, then we're going to find ourselves in division. And I think this is probably one of the main reasons why God hates it. When that's a very strong word. God hates it. If God hates it, why does God hate it? God hates division because it hinders progress in the kingdom of God, in the purposes of God being fulfilled within our lives. The only way that can be done is for God's will to be done. But when we start abusing the authority, when we start building our own kingdoms, when we start exalting ourselves, we're creating division. And the Bible is very, very strong about it. God hates those that cause division among brethren.